All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results, positive or not.
To the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bay, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome one, welcome all to the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health. We are here on another beautiful Friday, another hot Friday. Actually, it's not that warm out. I actually hope everybody was able to keep cool despite the heat wave that seems to be going not only across the country but is now in parts of Europe as well. This is probably going to go down as one of the hottest summers probably in history. Maybe I shouldn't say that because you never know, right? I hope all of our listeners are doing great out there. I hope you are staying cool. I hope you are staying relaxed. I hope you are loving yourselves and others. Speaking of love, we have a very interesting show today. We're going to be talking about relationships, mindful dating tips for singles. We have Miss Beth McGuffin, and she's going to be discussing some great tips. I'll, in a few minutes, talk a little bit about Miss McGuffin and the information that she's bringing, as well as a little bit about her. But I want to have a quick conversation about love. I hear a lot of people place blame on love for certain things, and I myself have also been one of those individuals who have placed blame on love. I wouldn't have done this if I hadn't been in love with the individual, or love made me do this, or because of love I did something. While love can motivate you to do things, I think it's not really love that always motivates us. Love is like the jump starter to the emotion, which quickly brings us to another emotion, which is selfishness. As I'm getting older, having more experiences with individuals, I'm learning that selfishness hangs around love. It's kind of like that bad friend that we all know we shouldn't hang around. You know what I mean? When you were coming up, you always had that one friend that your mother told you, she was like, I don't like him too much. He's going to lead you down the wrong path. Well, that's how I take selfishness. Selfishness is that homie of love. And because love is such a loving person, doesn't always see how selfishness can be. Or rather, maybe love sees how selfishness can be, but loves him just for him being who he is. So I want to talk a little bit about that very briefly, because I feel that we constantly are always saying about love made me do. And when you really think of it, it's selfishness behind a lot of those things. Why are we doing this? Because we want to prove our love, which is something totally different. It's not necessarily bad, but when we're doing something to keep someone, to prove that they should be with us or how much we love them, that's when I think it's that selfishness, because it really relates back to us wanting something, wanting that person, desiring that person. When you get too far out of balance, that's when problems can emerge. When your want is far surpassing your need. Because we need love, 100%. We need love, but we need balance as well. You can love somebody. You can love somebody that's totally dysfunctional. You can love them within balance so that you don't hurt yourself. That's why we have resolution. That's why we are able to analyze certain things. I think that is something that we have to really start to think about deeply as we progress through life. We have to think, what is it that we're doing and why? Is this love or is this selfishness? My love for this person, my desire for this person is one thing, but why? I was always taught this: love builds, it does not destroy. I used to have a relative that said, I can love you and beat your ass. I used to think that was the strangest thing ever. How can you love me and beat my ass? But it's possible. Why? Because that's love. You can love a person wholeheartedly, no strings attached. But the thing of it is I think you have to have love for yourself first in order to really understand how to truly love. How to truly love the proper way. That's just my little thought right there before we get into the show. It's going to be a great one, as I said before. We have Miss Beth McGuffin. Beth has a master's degree in education and is a certified attraction coach. And she's going to be talking a little bit about dealing with relationships, some mindfulness, dealing with relationships, how to love yourself better, and how to deal with certain issues when dating, as well as she's going to answer some questions from our audience. So definitely stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. I'm always excited. I'm exuberated. I'm hyped. I'm amped. Welcome to the De La Fit Podcast. Let's get it. Hey, you with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit Podcast.
Beth, how are you?
I'm doing really well, and I'm very excited to get to talk to you and your listeners about this very dear to my heart topic of single parenting.
Now, one thing I would definitely say is that I have a variety of friends, some married, some not, all of them who have children. Dating is a thought in their mind when they're not thinking about their children, because they want to have that person with them. They want to have that love that we all want deep in our hearts. But one thing I feel that we're all very familiar with is that jaded feeling. I'm not completely over some of my heartbreaks, and I know a lot of them aren't. So this is definitely a health issue, because our relationships is not just mental. There is actual trauma that is there when we have heartbreak. So how do we begin to deal with that?
That's a great question, and I think many of us struggle with letting go of the past, often because, like you said, there is trauma involved in very hurtful, sometimes abusive relationship. And what I do with working with clients, and what I had to do myself, was actively release the past and forgive myself and the other person. It's not an easy one and done process generally. So some people they can just let it go and move on. But most of us, it is a process and it is ongoing. But that's always the first thing I hope to work with, is releasing the past, so that you can even gain a vision for what you want to bring into your life.
Beth, give us a little bit of your own story, because I've read your bio, and I know the work that you're doing, but for our listeners, you're new to them. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So about me, I spent many years as a single parent. I got married right out of college to my college sweetheart, and we're from very different backgrounds. I'm American, he's Nigerian, and it didn't work. So it was very difficult because that was the last thing I wanted, was to be divorced or to be a single parent. But I was blessed with this amazing, gifted, little, beautiful bundle of joy, my daughter, that I was going to be raising, not alone, because he was definitely in the picture and very much in her life and still is, but not the way I had initially dreamed of it.
Right.
So I went through the whole process of going back to school and getting my master's degree while teaching and raising my daughter and just trying to be a good mom and figure myself out at the same time. And it was a struggle. And I didn't consider dating for many years, maybe 8-9 years after my divorce, before it was even a possibility, because I thought that since I was divorced, I wasn't allowed to have love in my life while I was raising my daughter. So,
what made you think that?
I think it was actually, it's interesting. Some of it was my own negative beliefs and self-talk that led me to believe that. Some of it was my friends, or a particular friend, that would say things like, not directly to me, but about other people, that basically, if you've been divorced, you don't deserve to remarry because you're taking something away from somebody else who's never been married. Wow. So, yeah, so we're not friends anymore. But,
right.
Yeah, so, it was a lot of things. When you're, like I said, I kind of believed it myself first, and it was totally wrong. And I attracted people that would reinforce a wrong belief. So that was something that took a while for me to move past and forgive myself and be able to move on and accept love.
It's interesting that you were saying about the friend, because actually a previous podcast that we had last week, we were discussing about just the circle of success. And was that last week? I think it was last week. You know what? That might have been a conversation I had with a friend of mine. But no matter. The conversation was really the fact of success. And when you're walking the road, when you're taking that journey, one thing that you kind of, think initially is that, you have the support of your friends and your family, which most of the times we do. But it seems as though sometimes individuals, they see you in a certain light, they put us in a certain place, and therefore they place their own feelings, judgments on us, which in a sense is almost like it keeps us in that place. It might not be intentional, but it just kind of seats us in this place. And when we venture onto our greater path, it's almost like it's frightening to them, because it's breaking the wall of what they have placed in their mind of who we are to them. And the fact that you brought that up, I'm like, wow, now it's, because success can mean really different things to many different people. It can mean a greater job, more money, fame, whatever, or love. So it's interesting that you said that about your former friend.
Yeah, and sometimes, like I said, we're not friends anymore, and that was a process for me, releasing some relationships that helped me stay stuck, unfortunately, because if the only people I was around were women that only had negative things to say about relationships, I couldn't see that a relationship could be wonderful and life-giving and beautiful. I could only see the bad. So I had to separate myself from that and get around people that had really beautiful marriages and that had longevity and that had been through hard things, but they'd come out on the other side stronger. But I had to let some things go to bring those people into my life. And that was hard, but it was worth it.
I totally understand that. We have a question for you. typically we ask our listeners to send us questions via our website or via email or what have you. And we did get a question sent to us. I'm going to bring it up right now. Everybody that's listening, you know how I am with computers. Don't judge me, please. Bear with me. So our question, the individual did not put in their name, but it says, I am a single mom and thinking about dating. I don't always feel confident in myself to go out there. And I'm always cautious as to what to expect and the kind of man I will bring into my son's life. Plus, how can I deal with the jealousy that stems from my son's father? So it seems like the first part of it is they're questioning about getting back out there and dating, and I guess how to set guidelines as to, dating. And when maybe they'll introduce an individual to their son. The second part is about the father. So let's start with the first part. How does a single parent start to create those guidelines, those boundaries?
That's a really good question. And like I said, I wasn't considering dating for quite some time. But what I was doing before I did date was to look at myself and really understand the kind of person I wanted to be in the relationship. So, for instance, one of the things I talk about with my clients is self-care, which I still have to work on. So how I treat myself and how I take care of my own, as you're saying, with the 360, my mental, my emotional, my physical, my spiritual health is really going to reflect the kind of person I'm bringing into my life. So I think before the figuring out when or how to introduce the person, it's about taking time for yourself and treating yourself well first. Like, that's part of how we gain confidence. Because when we take care of ourselves, we're naturally going to be more confident. And for instance, taking care of myself is not saying negative things to myself that erode confidence in me. So being the positive, loving light that I want to show to my daughter and treating myself that way. That was one of the ways I learned it, is I would never talk to my daughter that way. So I, therefore, never talk to myself that way. So that's kind of the first step before the boundaries with other people.
Excuse me, just to ask, or just to make sure I'm understanding. So it's more of yours in the sense, I guess, not redefining, but reiterating the treatment of yourself. And how you're treating yourself, if you're being, I guess, non-abusive to yourself. Would that be appropriate? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Definitely.
Just making sure I understand.
Exactly. And even a step further than just non-abusive, but appreciating yourself. Really seeing your worth and your value.
That can be hard.
It is hard, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
It's a process, and a lot of times those relationships, we kind of can end up feeling a little broken after them, right? Because things get said, and there's a lot of anger, and it can really tear you down, and you have to stop listening to that voice. You can hear in the back of your head the argument where the person called you a name, and then you find yourself saying that same name to yourself. But just being able to, like I said, forgive them, forgive yourself, and then the next step of appreciating yourself. And that can come in various ways.
Give us an example. I mean, because I know for me, being appreciative of myself, and this comes from many different, stigmas and things that I have dealt with people and myself. It is hard to be appreciative. So how do we begin to do that? What's the first thing, first rule, the first step to being appreciative of who you are and yourself?
I think the first step, at least for me, was recognizing the worth God put in me when He created me first, and trying to see God thinks that I'm amazing. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And He would know. He made me.
Right.
So for me, it was getting past the noise of my circumstances and saying, okay, what does God say? Who does God say that I am? And then from that, saying, I had a coach, and she would have me write every day for months something I appreciated about myself. I did gratitude as well for things in my life, but something that I appreciated about myself. So I helped my daughter to understand math in a way that she wasn't frustrated.
Right.
I smiled, and somebody else's eyes lit up because I opened myself up enough to smile at them. So just everything, anything, it doesn't have to be big, huge accomplishments that everyone else sees. It's the everyday things that we're doing right. It's really where I started.
Okay. So for our listener with their question, I think you answered that first question beautifully, way better than I ever could have. The second part of the question, which is being cautious. Well, I'm always cautious about what to expect and the kind of man that will bring into my son's life. So that sounds like it's trust. And would that go back into, I'm assuming that would go back into what you're saying about the fact of how you treat yourself and how you feel about yourself. Would that be hand in hand with the, trusting yourself to love again?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to touch on, that it's not only trusting yourself to love again, but trusting yourself to choose better. And you have to kind of love yourself better to know you deserve better and therefore choose better. Right? So, sometimes early on in a relationship, people will ignore but later very obvious warning signs. Part of the time we do that because we may think, I don't deserve better than that. Right. But when we are able to love ourselves and trust ourselves to heed the warning signs, to have open eyes and not accept what is unacceptable, then we're able to test it out. So, for instance, this single mom, we can just imagine that she's been through stuff and that her ex and jealousy is
Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the De La Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please, take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Still a part of her life. So there's probably, like you were saying, trust issues, trusting herself, trusting men. But it doesn't have to be that the next person you date is the love of your life. But can you go on a date with somebody and evaluate, is this a good person? Is this somebody I'd like to spend time with? And if you get that gut instinct feeling that, this isn't for me, and walk away, that builds trust, Okay. If you're not spending weeks and months with somebody you don't belong with. So just making those choices fairly quickly and not dismissing everybody just because you didn't like their haircut or something, but really, it's okay. If they're not the one, that's okay. We can move on.
Where do we get these I would say feelings from, or this ability to take treatment that is not what we truly want, where do we get this from? You touched on it already as far as, the treatment of ourselves. But where does this come from? Where does this originate from? Because I feel that many of us out there, we're just like, you know what, this person's not exactly what I want, or they don't exactly act the way I would like them to act, but I'll stay with them. Mm-hmm. Where does this come from? Because I feel like many of us, we don't feel that we mistreat ourselves. We feel that we're, I'm good, I like myself. So where does this come from, or where does this feeling or thought start to creep into our lives and in our relationships?
I actually think it happens pretty young. So my bachelor's degree is in psychology.
Okay.
And I don't want to blame our parents for everything in our lives by any means, mm-hmm. but I think we have deep hurts that, our parents went through things and they did the best they could. And occasionally, or often, basically we don't escape childhood without being hurt in some way.
Right.
So I think a lot of it happens when we're very young. And oftentimes, so for instance, my parents are divorced. It can be just what you see going on in your home, and sometimes not feeling accepted, or just a lot of things. So I don't think it begins when we get into relationships as teens and young adults. I think it starts much younger than that.
The last part of the question, she's saying, how does she also deal with her son's jealous father? Now, I've had friends that have gone through this, and I'm glad, again, that you're on the show, because I'm going to tell you, I think my first line of advice, it's not really advice. It would be taking them to let's just say the yard out in the back. But that's not the way we should actually appropriately handle things. I'm not advocating that, everyone. That's just what I would like to do at times. But Beth, how can she actually? What is the behavior? What is the jealousy? If you already know that you're not with the person, they don't want to be with you. What is that? Why is that action there?
That's a good question. So the jealousy can be many things. It can be they actually don't want you to be happy if you're not with them. Sometimes they know that they've messed up and you won't take them back, so they have anger toward anybody that they perceive as getting in the way of your going back to them. It can be a lot of things. It can be possessiveness. They're theirs, and you should only be with them, even if they mistreat you. But I do think at the root of any of those things, with jealousy, there's a lot of hurt, and probably this person is saying negative things to themselves about themselves and about their former spouse. So it can be difficult to navigate, but it can also be an opportunity for growth.
Okay.
So, for instance, she knows that he's going to be jealous, but does she let somebody else's feelings affect what she does in her relationship? Or does she choose to have her own life and be the queen of her own life and still be respectful and honoring, because this is her son's father, but give herself permission to have and control her own life in spite of his jealousy?
How does she go about dealing with maybe the effects of his, I don't want to say dysfunction, but his inadequacies, which he's projecting? How does she deal with certain issues? I'll give an example that I'll use dealing with my sister. One of my sisters had a very jealous ex-husband. He constantly would call her if he even thought that she was talking to another man and just berate her. And in a sense, he knew he couldn't do too many things to hurt her. One, because she has siblings. Also because My sister took martial arts classes, so physically he couldn't really, he couldn't really do anything physically to her, which on the other side goes into a comical story, but not for this particular day. But he started to search for things that he could use to hurt her. So how does, say like for this young woman who's asking this question, how does she particularly deal with maybe a situation like that? Because she doesn't go into specifics. She's just saying jealousy.
I would advise a no contact policy as much as possible so that they don't have the opportunity. And sometimes the conversation starts out fine and then they launch into something. So what I've done is basically refusing to continue the conversation. I won't be spoken to in that manner, and I'm going to go now. I'm not saying get angry and hang up or, start throwing things back at them in any way, but I'm not going to be treated this way, and I can't talk to you right now. And don't let them continue to say these things. That's not easy. It can take practice and people sometimes holding you accountable to doing it. But that's one of the things that you can try. And it may also depend on if you have children or not. That some people end up blocking people's numbers and no longer take their calls at all.
Right.
So it depends on the situation. Taking a stand for yourself ultimately, and not letting people speak to you that way.
So in a sense, setting those boundaries, like you were speaking with earlier, and how you're treating yourself, and basically how you treat yourself, and how potentially you're going to treat others and allow people to treat you.
Exactly. So as you're treating yourself better, when they start in, say more quickly, this isn't going to help my day. I'm not going to take this, and you can end it. But if you're saying the same things to yourself and they're just reinforcing it, then you're less likely to stop it.
Got you. Now, I have another question which I thought was really interesting. And also, some of my female listeners, they thought this was also interesting when I was talking about who I was going to have on the podcast next. One thing I've seen is that you say something which is rediscover your queendom. Could you talk a little bit about that? This is for definitely for some friends of mine out there that, first of all, when they saw that, they were just all like, "Hey, now we get into this." I'm like, "Wait, calm down." So this is for my friends out there. I can hear you yelling right now. They're like, "That's great. Get to it. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by rediscover your queendom?
So, by rediscover your queendom, again, for me, it goes back to knowing who God created me to be, and that's who God made me. So I have the joy of being named after queens. Both my grandmothers, Elizabeth and Catherine. So,
okay.
So when my grandmother passed away at 104 years old, and this is Elizabeth, someone came up to me and said to me, "You're Ruby's granddaughter, aren't you?" And I said, "I am." She goes, "I can tell by how you carry yourself. I can tell by how you speak to people that you're her granddaughter." Because my grandmother embodied queendom to me.
Okay.
And she was regal in every sense of the word, and that by that I mean she knew who she was and she knew her worth. And she did not let anybody, even a person that told her she wasn't allowed to enter the store through that door, she had to go to the back. She didn't let that happen. She would enter the store where she wanted to enter the store because she knew who she was, even with everything else in America at that time telling her the opposite. So oftentimes life and media and just so many messages that we get tell us that we're less than royalty, tell us that we don't deserve good things. And when I say rediscover, I mean go back to who you were really created to be. And that is as women, we are queens. As men, you are kings. And then expecting that in your life, to be treated as such and to treat the other person as the royalty that they are.
Beth, if I could just record your voice just right there and loop it, and I would play that every day for individuals. You know what? This is my podcast. Who knows? We might do that. You never know. Because I think many of us, we need to hear those words. We need to know that. And like you said, the media is constantly hounding us with negative visuals of, quote unquote, what a woman is or what a man is, and we don't get the reaffirmation as to that it can be so much more. We see these negatives in movies and songs and everywhere, and especially our children. I feel like our children, they're really getting hit with it, more so than maybe we did because, of the internet and phones. And I know I can hear the millennials out there. I'm not downing. I'm just saying that, at least for me, coming from a certain age standpoint, didn't have a phone at a certain age. Not saying that was good, not saying that was bad, just saying that wasn't always hit with the countless barrage of information, which can be positive, negative, or just indifference. So, we definitely need to hear more messages like that. Beth, where can individuals contact you to ask questions, to find out more about you, to get your book? Where can they reach out to you?
Well, so pretty much the best thing to do is just go to my website, and it's just my name, BethMcGuffin.com. And or you can email me at Beth@BethMcGuffin.com. And I love answering emails and met people, so feel free to contact me either place. On the website, you can set up a consultation and we could talk about it for an hour. So, yeah. And then my books are all available on Amazon, and there's some devotionals. My new is out by December at the latest. But there's a lot of great information and resources on the website, and hopefully we will connect and help people love themselves more.
Beth, thank you so much for joining us here at the De La Fit Podcast. We are grateful for your time, for your energy. We know that you are indeed a very busy woman. I thank you so much. We would love to have you back. And we're going to try to make that happen, because I know once this podcast is heard, many individuals, we're going to get a lot of emails and we're going to get a lot of messages. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure, and I would love to come back. It's been a great experience. Thank you.
So I want to take the time out to thank Beth for coming on to the show and giving us the benefit of her experience, her knowledge, her education where it comes to relationships, being a single parent and dating, learning how to love and trust herself in order so that she could love and trust another, which is very difficult, something that I struggle with to this day. It is not easy to forgive oneself when one has given love to somebody that was not worthy of it, or when things fall apart, because sometimes they do. It's not easy to forgive yourself. So that's something that I think a lot of times we just blouse over. We talk about forgiveness for other people, but we don't talk about forgiving ourselves. Something that hurts, something that takes a lot of energy, something that you have to learn to do. Something that I myself have to learn to do. It's difficult. As I talked about in the beginning, love is such a powerful energy. But we put so many things on love. We blame love. But I want to say this. As I said in the beginning of my intro, I'm going to say it now in my outro. Love builds. It does not destroy. It is us that attach other things onto love. Yes, love can inspire you to do many things. But it's those other little tricky friends that like to hang around love. Selfishness, vanity, so many other things. So I thank Beth for coming on to the show and giving us advice, tools to help us deal with things like the situation that we talked about earlier, to help us forgive ourselves, to help us set boundaries so that we can re-love ourselves, forgive ourselves, and begin to let the clouds part so that we can see who's the proper person to love. Thank you so much, Beth. I just want to give a little background on her. I said in the beginning that she has a master's degree and has and is also a certified love attraction coach. But Beth is also an internationally known best-selling author on Amazon. She has a book which is entitled Open Your Heart: How to Use Your Creative Superpowers to Attract Love. She also has other publications, actually numerous publications that she has written. And I would encourage anybody and everybody to Google or search on Amazon to see the many different writings that Beth has done and accomplished. And again, we thank you so much, Beth, for coming on to the podcast, sharing your story, your experience, just everything, because there are definitely tools that you gave us, advice that you gave us to help us begin to help ourselves, love ourselves, and set those boundaries. So thank you so much. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. As always, thank you so much to our listeners. Without you, there would be no us. And I thank you so much. You tune in every week and listen to me stumble, bumble, and attempt to talk. Something that I'm still learning to do. But I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate the comments, the texts, the messages. I appreciate you all greatly because you give us energy and you give us your time. And that's valuable. As always, if you want to contact us, if you want us to talk about a topic, if you want us to ask us a question, if you want us to bring a specific person onto the podcast, please contact us at delafit13@gmail.com. As well as you can contact us at www.delafitpodcast.com. We're available and also on Facebook at De La Fit Podcast. We are on Instagram at DE_LA_Fit Podcast. We are not on Twitter. We won't be tweeting. I don't like tweeting. It sounds strange. Thank you so much. Please remember, it takes a village to raise a child, and we are all somebody's child, so we need to each one teach one, because children need to be taught. Some things are innate and some things have to be explained. We as a village should get together to help each other. Please remember to love yourselves as best as you can, as honestly as you can. If you do that, I know you will love others. Be safe, be well, have a great weekend. Peace.
You've been listening to the De La Fit podcast. Ta-ta for now.